That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Seeding, the directorial debut of music video director Barnaby Clay, which premiered in the US at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2023. Magnet, along with XYZ Films, is releasing it January 26th, 2024.
A man finds himself trapped in a desert canyon with a woman living off-grid who is captive to a pack of sadistic boys. What's your pull quote?
A milquetoast white knight gets his just desserts, or just desert, in this derivative mishmash of Woman in the Dunes and The Hills Have Eyes.
Mine. An ambitious effort that doesn't quite hit the mark. The Seeding is asking a lot of the viewer without much payoff. Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is a miss.
Yes.
The story. So there's a man named Wyndham.
Wyndham Stone, played by Scott Haze, who, if people remember, used to live with James Franco, of which there were many rumors about between the two.
Oh, we'd have to bring that up. But
well, James Franco's directed him in a few things.
But Wyndham appears to be a photographer, and he drives out into the desert. It's set in modern time. We see him park his car, get out, go set up because he wants to take a picture of an eclipse. He does. And then as he's walking back, he finds a child, like a 10-year-old boy, crying under a tree. Why are you crying, little boy? And the kid says, I can't find my parents. Well, let's go call for help. And the boy starts walking in an opposite direction. And Wyndham says, no, let's not go that way because my phone won't work. And then we cut to, they've been walking for what would appear to be hours because Wyndham is all out of breath and the time of day has changed. And then we see Wyndham trying to grab the boy and the boy snaps on him and runs off. So now Wyndham is in the middle of the desert, lost. He lays down to fall asleep, gets up. It's still nighttime. He's wandering around and he comes upon a big pit, like an asteroid hit it 1 million years ago. And we see that there is a house at the bottom of this pit and a lady in a muumuu singing. The lady is played by...
apparently her name is Alina, played by Caitlyn Sheil.
Who we know from...
Oh God, all kinds of stuff. House of Cards.
That's right, House of Cards.
She Dies Tomorrow. She was in an episode of Swarm last year.
So this fool, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the night, climbs down a ladder. And I don't know that it's shot in a way that I understood the scale, but it seems like this pit is quite deep. He climbs down the ladder, knocks on the door, walks in, and the woman is all chill, like, oh, sit down, have something to eat.
She goes, I'm alone.
And he's like, well, no, I want to get out of here. And she's like, you can't. And just to wrap up the story, he ends up getting stuck down there, having sex with her once. She gets pregnant. And then she basically says, I need you here until the baby's born. And once the baby's born, the premise mentioned these pack of boys, which we'll get to, but these boys bring her supplies. So it seems like they're in cahoots in a way. And once she has the baby, one of those boys comes down and kills Wyndham. The end.
Mm-hmm. And I think the poster kind of really gives away the main conceit of the story.
Plus, immediately as we realize that there's a woman in this pit, you referenced another movie.
Woman in the Dunes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What is the story of that? Show your little DVD.
Directed by Hiroshi Teshigahara. It's an excellent film. I've also read the book that it's based on by the acclaimed Japanese writer Kobo Abe. And it's about a man that's, I think he collects insects and he's out on an excursion out in the countryside and he finds a pit, but it's a pit made of sand, so it's constantly kind of collapsing in on itself. And there's a woman down there, and much like the Scott Haze character gets stuck down there. And it would seem that the community that lives atop has kind of an agreement with the woman, and they also get her things like men, but it's more of for companionship.
Interesting.
But how that film was shot was interesting because it's literally in a pit of sand, so filming was difficult.
What did I like about this movie? I think the general premise is intriguing. I think the cinematography works well.
I was shot by Robert Leitzell, who also lensed Black Bear, that Aubrey Plaza film that I loved.
And I did think the performance from the female actor,
Caitlyn Sheil, she's usually pretty good at playing weirdos. Back in 2013, Sun Don't Shine, opposite Kentucker Audley. She's pretty, she's good at being psychotic.
But so first off, how Wyndham gets into the pit is so crazy to me. First of all, this little kid in the middle of the desert, and you follow him, and the kid is like, no, my parents are this way. Well, if the kid knows where his parents are, I don't need to go with you to find them.
Do your due diligence, get back to where you need to go and report that you saw a child.
But, right, so that's what I was thinking. Like, I would have, if that kid would have been like, no, we're going this way, it's like, okay, well, I'm going back to my car and I'm going to call the police. But he didn't do that. That's not the story we got. So he follows him. But then I think, and then he sleeps in the desert. Then he climbs down this pit. And it all just felt like you're asking me to let go of a lot of stupidity. But I think the biggest issue is these boys. Because at a point they say that they can't leave the palace. So now I'm thinking, where do these boys live? They supply her with things like sugar, all of her supplies. Where do they get that stuff
Liquor.
from?
Yes, and I think that it would have been more interesting if we're going to go this Lord of the Flies, who could kill a child, kid cult. What if we actually see it up top that they're living in this beautiful mansion and they have this baby making factory that they're selling these kids for? I don't know. There's so many interesting
That
directions.
could have been interesting. I thought the movie's doing too much. I wish it would have been pared down. Because we also the film is broken up into several parts with these title cards. And the title cards are Sturgeon Moon, Harvest Moon, Cold Moon, Harvest Moon again, Blue Moon.
There's a Beaver Moon in there.
Moon. It just felt I feel like it's trying to do something. But what threw me off track is the cinematography, the visuals of the title cards, they're also punctuated with a shot of a plate of food.
Yeah, there's a headless sparrow and some carrots and an onion. It looks like
in different varying stages of decomposition.
Produce from the 99-cent store, yeah.
That I thought was interesting, and I think the performance from the lead actress are all... This film kind of felt like it was directed by two different people. The person who was in charge of the lady and the different segments and the cinematography is one movie. And then the person in charge of the main guy and the kids were making a different movie. Because he and the kids feel like The Hills Have Eyes.
The Hills Have Eyes. Well, you could even stretch that to Wicker Man or Deliverance even.
Their acting, everyone's acting to me was a little crunchy except for the lady.
Again, I always quite like her. Oh, now... The title of this reminds me of that. There's this TV movie with Kay Lenz called The Seeding of Sarah Burns.
Oh.
That I've never seen. But speaking of 70s TV movies, Stacy Keach and Samantha Eggar headlined this 1974 movie called All the Kind Strangers, which Stacy Keach is this man who finds a young boy on the side of the road that needs a ride, drives him to the house out in the swamp, car gets stuck, and finds his little family out there, and a woman that's been trapped into acting as the kid's mother, and he's been selected as the new father. So again, this story is not new.
No, but in this version, I don't understand the point. I don't understand why, because... So when Wyndham first gets down there and then she's like, have some food, which I thought that food looked like she had made hot dog, tater tot, corn soup. It looks so gross. And Wyndham doesn't want to eat it. But at first, it's kind of like, okay, well, let's just wait till it's daylight. Because clearly this lady's not trying to do anything right now. But then he gets up in the morning and because the ladder, part of it, the bottom part, like a fire escape, is gone. Mm-hmm. We never see him try to explore the rest of the pit. I think this could have been more simple. We just see a guy exploring the desert and he goes down into this pit and then realizes he can't get out. And he just resigns himself to his fate that he just has to live here with this lady. And then maybe in the end, we see that he could have always gotten out because on the other side of the pit, you can climb up and... it could have been an allegory for something like that. But instead, we don't really ever see him try to get up. He does climb up partially once and then falls down. Then one kid early on throws a rope down to lift him up. But then they leave him hanging all day, all night. And then he falls. But he hurts himself when he falls. So his leg is badly injured. Mm-hmm. And we see the lady... take some of his blood and put her thumbprint on the wall in her bedroom. And then we see that her bedroom has hundreds of thumbprints. Then we see a picture of an old lady who they call ugly. And
She said she's the first mother.
so it seems like this house has been here for a long time, and that this is what they do. Try to get men to come down to get these women pregnant. But then I didn't understand, like, have that many people, all those thumbprints, are those men who came down into the pit? And if so, it's in modern time. It's hard to believe that no one's discovered this pit.
I think that's what's kind of the problem is he's parked near enough where he could potentially walk this. No one's ever flown overhead or seen this or had reports of feral children being out
Drones,
there.
nothing.
Because what would have been more interesting is if this had been set in the 80s and on the eve of like technology allowing us to see into this pit. It kind of ends this cycle
last guy, yeah, he's the last guy to experience this.
because the film also goes to show that a female hitchhiker, who I guess is, we never see a close-up of her, but that's the French singer-actor Soko.
Oh. Well, she looked like a teenager, but she was dressed like she was headed to the mall. And I'm thinking, like, so this lady walked to the pit and she looks fresh as a daisy. So it can't have been that far off the grid. So again, it made me think, how has no one discovered?
And then her standing at the lip of the pit, she can see that at this point in the narrative, Scott Haze is in a cage.
Yes.
So she can see that something's wrong.
Yeah, so this young lady who seems to have easily found the pit can very easily see that there's something wrong happening. So that really made me confused. Then it's like, are these boys like the lady's children who are, like, is this lady's children? Or are these like, are the old, because there are some older boys. One boy we see peeing on Wyndham at a point when we see his penis. He looks like an adult.
And that penis looks sus as well.
Sure, but it's like, so is he the child of the lady in the pit? Because she looks pretty young.
I don't mind that it's keeping a lot of those things ambiguous, but it's just, it's not well done. I don't know, the boys and their secret language that they're chanting, they come down in the pit sometimes, one in drag, to taunt and potentially sexually assault Wyndham Stone.
Yeah, that was odd.
I guess I just don't know to what end. Because the process of finding a stray man, like, that'll go into your little spider's web to get this woman pregnant, you know, there are so many. What if he's sterile? Again, I'm assuming that they keep him alive in case she loses the baby and needs another dose of sperm. I don't know. Like, it seems like an interesting idea that needed or could have been fleshed out a lot better.
They have a little ceremony, which made me think there's like a cult sort of aspect to it. But I guess I wanted to understand why it has to be this way. Because I feel like if she needs a man to have sex with her, that'd be very easy to do. Like, I don't understand why it has to be this way.
She's also frustrating in a way that Wyndham Stone is like the next morning after he gets up, he's like, "Hey, where's the ladder? It's gone." And she goes, "I don't know. It just shows up. Sometimes people come here." And it's like, she's so vague about her answers. I can't believe he doesn't just like smack her.
Well, it kind of worked for me because I thought, oh, she knows what's going on.
Clearly.
But she's trying to act like she's just a victim, which might disarm the man. Like, maybe clearly they have a routine that works. If they've been doing this for decades, that if you just act like a damsel in distress, the men will leave you alone. Mm-hmm. But then I feel like the movie should have been more about this man. Because I thought it could have been interesting. Like, here's this woman who occupies this space, is clearly comfortable, she's getting along. Then this man comes along thinking, well, this is wrong, and I can figure out how to get out of here. And he ends up basically destroying himself. And in the end, we see, like, all you had to do was this to easily get out.
Or make something more interesting. Like, what if they lured a gay man in here, not knowing he's gay, and she makes it known, like, listen, the only way you can get out of here is I get pregnant. And then what are we going to... Yeah, I don't know. There's just so many more... The psychological warfare that could have happened between these two people is just not there.
Scott Haze looks like if you mix Walton Goggins and then you said Casey Affleck.
Yeah.
He has an interesting look. And then the time frame, it would appear that he's been down there for the time it takes to gestate a human baby. So quite a while. But very early on, like, it seems like he's only been there a couple days. We see him trimming his beard. I thought that was odd. Like, he's so quickly settled in.
He keeps asking for help. She's like, I can take care of you. He's like, I don't want that. I don't want you to take care of me. My first note about her is because the next morning she's trying to fix her roof. Apparently, he's like, her tin roof's rusted.
So, at a point, Wyndham is like broken down. Like he's dirty, he's sad, he's desperate. And we had seen prior to this that the lady, because from his bed, he can see her in her bed and she gets naked and gives herself a bird bath. And then the second time she does it, she sort of like looks at him like, come on over.
Come hither.
So then we see them embrace and he's crying and dirty and she's naked and that's when they have sex. And I guess that's when she got pregnant. That was an interesting scene because first of all, you know he smelled terrible.
I'm sure they both, yeah.
But also it's like they never really address like his desires. I feel like that sex scene felt like it came out of nowhere and then they don't ever...
It never comes back.
Show affection. Because then when she tells him she's pregnant, he gets mad. But then...
Oh, we can have a baby down here. What does he call her? Inbred something.
Something. But then towards the end, he's like, that's my baby. Like, you can't take my baby away from me. I just like the psychology of it all is
his psychology,
real weak.
When he chooses to be aggressive is interesting. Like, okay, now you're going to pop off? Okay.
There's a scene where he's digging. So then at a point, he starts digging to like plant seeds and we see the seeds grow. And then at one point, there's a little boy, like a 12-year-old boy named Lepus.
Why does this feral child have a Latin name for hair?
So hair like bunny rabbit.
Yes.
So Lepus, Wyndham is sort of like getting to him saying like, hey, I can teach you things, but you got to help me get out of here. And so it seems like Lepus might actually help him. Then we cut to the next day and the other boys have killed Lepus and strung him up over the pit. Don't know how they did that. But of course, then the lady freaks out because it would seem like that's her kid that was killed. And that's when she locks Wyndham in a cage. And that cage looked real. That cage looked like the kind of cage you lock rabbits in, actually.
I think the egg-laying chicken they used to keep in there.
So I don't know how he couldn't break out of that. But when he was digging to plant his seeds, he found a wedding band and a set of car keys. So we know for sure at least one person. I also swore I saw a bunch of human bones.
There are bones, yeah.
So it seems like many people have died down here. Again, I don't understand.
He's like, the soil is real fertile for the desert. Yeah. Guess why?
There's a moment when, because Wyndham's a photographer, he has his camera and he's showing her pictures because he's trying to convince her there's life outside of the pit. And he has a video of himself in his car with the radio playing. And she's never seen anything like that. So she gets real excited and is laughing. I thought a moment like that could have been a good tone for the movie. Where, again, this man thinks he's going to come here and rescue this woman from this life that she's made for herself and seems comfortable. But really, he's the dummy and he gets dealt with. But I feel like I don't know what the purpose of any of this was.
You're right. I just watched Woman in the Dunes.
Oh, yeah.
And what? We couldn't get a blue corn moon in there?
Lastly, we see...
Pocahontas?
When the baby's born... That's when, and we see that the baby's healthy. That's when one of the boys is in the pit. Somehow he got down there and kills Wyndham. And we see and hear the mom tell her baby, like, one day you'll be the mother. So clearly it's going to keep going. And then the final shot is some time has passed, enough time that Wyndham's body, which is pretty close to the house, is like fully decomposed. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was odd. Like, so y'all just let these rotting bodies just lay here?
Well, it would stink.
To fertilize? I don't know. What else do you want to say about this movie?
Nothing.
What would you give it?
2.
I would give it 2 out of 5. Join us on Patreon. Listen to our podcast. Bye.